Hello and welcome to Draw Cartoons. It is October, it is Halloween season, and it is time for another Discord art showcase. We have got some spooky art lined up for you this month, but also some not so spooky art for those of you who are already a bit fatigued with the pumpkin season. Today I'm going to be offering some great art tips as I usually do in these videos, because looking at your drawings really sparks off ideas in me, and it's a great reason to keep doing these showcases. I offer it in the form of feedback, but it's also very relevant for those of you who is just simply trying to learn to draw. If you enjoy this video, please do click that thumbs up, it really does help my channel, and if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do click subscribe as well, and you'll be sure to catch all the future videos that I do. Alright, let's get going. First up, we have this illustration by a viewer called This is a Spooky Bucket. This is a spooky bucket. It's more nightmarish than spooky. But what's not nightmarish is this lovely assortment of ink work. We have an assortment of different characters from the Cuphead franchise who are all drawn very close together, actually interacting with each other, and this is something that's very difficult to draw. So I really had to point this one out. Also, it's very bold and attractive to look at, despite the fact that it's devoid of color. This is really nice. I love the Cuphead art style, and I don't think I'll ever quite be sick of seeing it, so keep it up. Now, in the spirit of Halloween, we have this genuinely quite terrifying illustration by Tino Bino, whose name is considerably more cute than the drawing. But that's not to say it's bad at all, actually. This looks like something you would see out of one of those indie horror games, just creeping towards you or stalking the corridors looking for you at every turn. If someone modded something like this into Amnesia, I don't think I'd ever play Amnesia ever again. I think it'd be a bit much at that point. This is very cool, terrifying, and gruesome, though. I love the texture work on the background as well. Kinda looks like icky bloodstains. The teeth look genuinely harmful and terrifying. Yeah, just a very spooky piece for this Halloween edition of the art showcase. Very nice. Professor Dunce did this drawing for a friend who has been sick for a while. I hope they get better soon. It really sucks when you have an illness that just really kind of clings on and doesn't go away. A few months back, I also got quite ill. It seemed to last like a month. It was just not good. But it's very thoughtful of you to draw this for your friend. I also love the difference between the two characters. You got this short, kind of stocky character with these big old horns, very simple face. I'm very much reminded of Homestuck in this, by the way, when I do compare and contrast these two characters. Something that I love to see in cartoons the most is a drop of humor, even in the face of adversities like this. AMACD is back once again, and again, in the spirit of Halloween, we have this excellent illustration of a vampire. The details on this are great. You can even see the puncture marks on the neck where they originally were bitten themselves, possibly recently, and became a vampire. I love the limited color scheme in this. This is something I'm yet to really cover in my tutorials as well, where you only use about 4 or 5 colors in your entire illustration. It can be surprisingly effective, and that's something that AMACD has done here, just very light grays, whites, and reds. Sometimes limitations can birth some very good creativity. Seco is back once again with a very detailed sketch here. Lots of little hatching lines to look at, especially in the grooves or simply the darker parts of the illustration. There are small details here that are very interesting to look at, such as the asymmetrical broken horn, the eye, and the little dude with the big hat sat on top of this snake dragon thing. I love the expressions, and the fact they're just kind of like facing in the same direction makes me wonder if they're just about to set off on a journey together. Unusual anatomy like this can be very interesting to look at. WooSketch started off doing an illustration of a classmate and ended up with something that looked like this after they kept editing it and warping it. And it's absolutely terrifying. It looks a bit like my sleep paralysis demon, minus the eyes. A very piercing and ominous drawing, just in time for the season as well. It almost looks like a spooky sort of album cover or the front cover of a game or a movie or something. Some unexplained phenomenon or monster. Yeah, it really gets the imagination going, and that's something I love to see in art. Next up, we have Calran, who has drawn something of a mix between a Family Guy character and a South Park character. You can kind of see the artistic inspirations here. It's very goofy, it's very wacky, and that's absolutely at home in cartoon illustrations. Yes, I can see that the shirt kind of says, I think, Jurassic Pork, which sounds considerably less frightening than dinosaurs, but I don't think they had pigs back then. It was a really long time ago. I love the asymmetrical eyes. You got like one huge crazy eye and then like one standard eye. The bucktooth expression's a bit of a classic. Yeah, very nice. This digital painting style by Maracas just keeps getting better and better. They've been experimenting and practicing a lot with their values, and what I mean by that is simply lights and darks. You forget about the colors and just think about where the light's gonna go and where the shadow's going to go. Hence you end up with a black and white piece, or sepia, or you know, whatever color kind of backdrop that you're working with. This is a bit of a twist on the Chain Chomp and the Toad from the Mario series. I'm a big fan of Nintendo generally, so it's really cool to see something like this. Keep working at it, Maracas. I would recommend that the very back of the tongue, where it goes into the mouth, should be a little bit darker, and highlight the very edge of the tongue that would be facing the background of the piece just a tiny bit to give it that rounded shape. Generally though, you're really conquering this. This is just great. Riona has drawn the protagonist of Looking for Paradise, and this is an excellent illustration. The anatomy is pretty much spot on. The shape of the character has this kind of hourglass figure. I will say that maybe the feet could be a little bit closer together, but then again, everyone does that pose, so I appreciate the attempt to do something a bit different. The hair looks great as well, and you've really picked out the right colors. Really nice, Riona. Go ahead and experiment with more dynamic poses as well. You know, poses that suggest some sort of motion. Jose has drawn this scheming three-eyed cat character who I believe their name is Rock, judging by the top right. I don't recognize them from anything, so I think this is an original character. If so, I love this design. They look like they've been pulled right out of a cartoon. Really nice, Jose. You're getting a great grip of that shading. I will say the shading on this rightmost arm over here is probably a little bit flat. It doesn't really show off the rounded shape of the arm, so don't forget to curve up those shadows at the edges. Otherwise, yeah, I love the different sized eyes. The color scheme is like this minty blue, like a spearmint, you know? And you've even got this foggy sepia vignette on the piece, which really keeps your eye in the center of the drawing, which is a very cool technique. Squid the banana has absolutely knocked it out of the park. This perspective drawing, it's a PNG, so the background is transparent as well, so you can just slot this onto a website very neatly. There's so much to look at here. I encourage you, if you haven't already, to full screen the video on the device that you are using and just pause the video and have a look around. There's a lot of motion, there's a lot going on. The color palette is limited to greens, browns, and purples. There's something new to see every time you just move where you're looking, even inside the windows of this building. It's like graffiti art, but it's not on a wall, it's on a screen. Just brilliant. I love to see art like this where you can look in a new place and there is something else going on. Absolutely stellar. Nathan Spears has been very busy this month. There's been an assortment of great illustrations in the Discord. I couldn't quite put them all here, but I had to show off two that, well, they achieve different things. The one on the left here is obviously very seasonal. You've got this kind of zombified hand from a hooded cloak holding up this gooey kind of drooling jack-o'-lantern. The expression on it is fantastic. Great levels of detail here as well, Nathan. This is fantastic. It's almost like it belongs on the front of like a Halloween greetings card, even though I don't think those are really a thing. At least they're not a thing here in the UK. They might be somewhere else, but I've never seen them. And then over here on the right, we have an illustration of Beerus from the Dragon Ball universe. And I really wanted to point this one out because of the shading as well as the general shape of the drawing. Not only have you got Beerus's likeness down to a T, but the shading on this is just, it's excellent. You've done what's called cell shading here, which is where you sharply block out the bits that are dark against the parts that are light. You usually end up with a very vivid illustration here that shows a stark difference between light and dark. It's a very common technique in cartoons. You see it all the time. And yes, the name for it is simply cell shading, C-E-L shading. And what I'm trying to say is, you've done it really well. Great work there, Nathan. I really can't wait to see more from you. JD has drawn this dynamic walking pose of their own original character over a vaporwave kind of 80s sunset backdrop, and I just keep looking at it. I love how vivid it is. There's just like a lot to see here. It's also an aesthetic that I generally like to see in whatever media we're talking about here. JD, I have something for you to try when you have a busy background though, because you have the outline of the character over the backdrop as well, and you know, the backdrop itself has got lots of lines, so it ends up a bit kind of crisscrossy, but there is something that you can try to avoid that. If you go around the character in the center of the drawing with like a white line or like a bright purple line in this case, just to kind of help block them out, almost like a silhouette, you'll always be able to identify what belongs to the character and what belongs to the backdrop. I will say that it does end up making them look a bit like a sticker that's been put over the top, but it can still be visually impactful. Great drawing there, JD, as usual. Here's another digital portrait by Coach. And this one has some really good symmetry, but also asymmetry. Generally, the face is the same on both sides, but it's also not. It's got a bit of a wonkiness to it, and I love that. It makes the character seem a bit more natural or almost relatable. I also love the little extra added lines that you've done in the hair there. You've got these little dashes just above where the sideburns are, and you've got these lines along the very top of the crown of the hair. You've got little flicks of hair on the edges of the eyebrows as well. These are just little bits of detail that I don't tend to notice in a lot of drawings, so there's something very unique about that. Also, the shading is very light and subtle, and honestly, when it comes to shading, sometimes less is simply more. And last but not least is this sketch portrait by Turtle21. The shading and lighting on this is really nice, but possibly a bit harsh in some places. Something that's very, very challenging to draw, especially when it comes to like realistic portraits, is a face that's looking up a bit. Not really sure why, but it becomes very challenging to get the chin right in those sorts of poses, so to speak. But you've done pretty well with this. I've also noticed just a little bit of light on that darker cheek there, just to show that that cheek does come out, and that is the way that light would behave on that face. Love those big earrings too. Very nice. And that is it for this month. Remember, if your drawing didn't show up in this video, that's not because I didn't like it or anything like that. I have to choose out the drawings that give me something to highlight and talk about. It's hard to get everyone's drawings into these videos because there's quite a lot of them. And if I made videos with everyone's drawings in them, they'd be really long. If you want to be a part of these videos in the future, don't forget to hit that Discord link in the description down below. Everyone is free to take part. Just post your drawings in the art channel of that Discord, and I might decide to show it in my next video. For now, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Happy Halloween, and I will see you very soon.